वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमाव दिव्य छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। नित्यानंदम अहम नौमि सर्वानंदकरं परम हरिनाम प्रदम देवम अवधूत शिरोमणि। Hare Krishna. Before I begin, I would want to prostrate myself a million times at the lotus feet of Abhay Charanaravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because of whose kind endeavor we have all been blessed with this opportunity of performing Krishna Bhakti in this very rarely attained human form of life. And secondly, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Narayan Keshav Prabhu, to Avdarya Gaurachandra Prabhu, and to all the devotees of ISKCON Birmingham for very kindly having me in your Sangha, very kindly having me at your service once again. And finally, I pray for the prayers, best wishes and blessings so that I may speak some favorable words in the glorification of today's topic. Also, before I begin, Narayan Keshav Prabhu, would it be possible to just pin me, pin or spotlight so that during the recording it's visible?
Yeah, probably it's showing at the moment.
Okay.
Enough to see.
Okay, if it's showing, I can also see, but I just wanted to double confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is one of the very prominent acharyas in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. We see Monday is the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that day is also the day of disappearance of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. The day Saraswati Thakur appeared in this world was also the day Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj, the very prominent disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he chose that day to depart from this world in the land of Mayapur. So you see Saraswati Thakur's dear father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Gurudev is Srila Gaur Kishore, is Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. And Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, in his work, he very beautifully makes a very interesting point. He says that based on the kingdom that you're living in, one should worship that king. If someone is living in a kingdom called as Satyuga, then someone should worship the king called as Nrsingadev. If someone is living in a king called as Treta Yuga, then wholeheartedly worship the king of Treta Yuga called as Sri Ram. If someone is living in the kingdom called as Dwapar Yuga, then one should, with full absorption, worship the king of Dwapar, that is Shri Krishna. But if someone is not living in Satya, and if someone is not living in Dwapar, and if someone is not living even in Treta, but is living in this dark age of Kali, oh, then wholeheartedly Jagannath Das Babaji says, if you're living in the kingdom called as Kali Yuga, then wholeheartedly, with all your heart, as His Grace Madhav Prabhu says, with all your heart, then with all your heart, one should worship the king of Kali Yuga, that is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is our only business. Whatever Nrsingadev gave in Satya Yuga, whatever Sri Ramchandra gave in Treta Yuga, Whatever Sri Krishna gave in Dwapar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to give much more, not even the same. He's coming down to give much more than what all the three incarnations came down to give. So we see that these 2 months, the month of February and the month of March, it's primarily the 2 months where we are having so many festivals, and most of the festivals are centered around the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. We see it started off with Advaita Saptami, the appearance day of Advaita Acharya. And then we had the appearance day of Ramanujacharya. We had the appearance day of Madhvacharya. We had Bhishma Ashtami. And then we had Nityananda Trayodashi, appearance day of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. And now, within about 20 days or 1 month's time, we are going to celebrate the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these 2 months are, it's that time of the year where the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears along with his associates. But before he appears down, he makes sure to send all his associates. All the associates come down before him. They do all the groundwork, and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in this world. Swaparshadasviya dhama saha avatari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears saha avatari. He appears down with all his Swaparshad, all his associates, and not just his associates, dear devotees. Swaparshada Sviya Dhama. He gets his own Dhama from the spiritual world. That is Navadvip Dham. Just like Krishna gets his Golok Vrindavan to this world as Bhauma Vrindavan. Similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gets Shvetadvip, Navadvip of the spiritual world, down to this world as Navadvip that we find in West Bengal. Actually, what we find in the map, we see the map of India. One may think that, oh, Vrindavan is in Uttar Pradesh or Mayapur is in West Bengal. But this is not true. Externally, it may seem that it is in Uttar Pradesh or West Bengal. But actually, these places are the spiritual world itself. The Supreme Lord is directly invoking, just like he is coming down and bringing all his associates. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is getting that spiritual support down to this world for all of us. What is our qualification? Nothing. What have we done? Nothing. Like Srila Prabhupada was once in a morning walk, and the disciples, they asked Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, what was our qualification that we got your association? And Prabhupada, very emphatically, Prabhupada remarked by saying, qualification? No, you all did not have any qualification. I made your qualification. So it's almost similar that we did not have any qualification to receive Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Mahaprabhu, through our Gurudev, made our qualification. He made that qualification so that we can hear and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So our topic will also be centered around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because this is that time of the year where Gaur Katha is prominent, because Gauranga Mahaprabhu is about to appear, Nityananda Prabhu has already appeared, Advaita Acharya has already appeared. So it's but natural that we have to speak about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to purify our ear and to purify the tongue of the servant speaker. We find Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, who is such a dear associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who's Prabodhananda Saraswati? Prabodhananda Saraswati is Tunga Vidya Sakhi of the spiritual world. We see when we go to Mayapur and we take darshan of Shri Radha Madhav and the Ashta Sakhis. So we have so many Ashta Sakhis, 4 to the left of Sri Krishna and then 4 to the other side. And we find that one of those Ashta Sakhis, along with Sudevi, Ranga Devi, Champaklata, Indulekha, Lalita, Vishaka, etc., one of those Ashta Sakhi is Tunga Vidya Sakhi, very dear, confidential servant of Shri Radha and Krishna. That Tunga Vidya Sakhi decides to appear in this world to help Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati is in the same family as that of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, all one family. So we find Prabodhananda Saraswati, in his work called as Chaitanya Chandramrita, he very beautifully glorifies Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabodhananda Saraswati describes by saying, Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemavadivya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. This was Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj's favorite verses. For those who have heard or are hearing or who desire to hear Gaur Govinda Maharaj, will find that Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would always chant this verse during Mangalacharan. This was one of his classic favorite verses of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. So what does Prabodhananda Saraswati say? Who's the author? He says, Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya. Oh, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Ananda Lila Maya. He is the embodiment. He is the deity form of happiness. What is the use of worshipping that Lord who himself is sad? Because we ourselves are sad all the time. We are morose all the time. We have our job deadlines. We have our academic commitments. We have our IT project commitments. Whichever field we are in, a Friday evening gives a lot of happiness to our heart. And that same happiness goes by in just a fraction of a second. But when it's a Sunday evening and Monday again, when we have to resume back to our work, all that happiness is completely gone. So whether it is our job, whether it is our academic deadline, we see people are always stressed and anxious and worried. No one is constantly happy. And if you're worshipping a Lord who himself is sad, what's the use? So it's a paramount importance that we worship that form of the Lord who is filled with happiness and who can give happiness to others, because that is what we are looking for. All of us are looking for happiness. I don't think anyone would have the courage here in this assembly to put their hand up and say that, Prabhuji, we don't want happiness, we want sadness, we want to be distressed. No one wants that. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be blissful. So who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya. Oh, he is the Vigra. He is the deity form of Ananda. He himself is happiness personified, and he also spreads happiness. Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemava Divya Chavi Sundaraya. Oh, and how is his complexion? Hemava Divya. His complexion is that of molten gold. It's almost like gold personified is walking in front of us. You see how people are so infatuated by gold. Gold is something that kind of attracts everyone's heart, whether it's in the form of a bracelet or it's in the form of investment or whatever we call it. But gold is something that attracts. And the Supreme Lord knows it. He is trying to do everything possible to attract our hearts back to him. Okay, you love gold. Okay, I will come in the form of gold. You love this. I will come in the form of that. You love fighting. Oh, Krishna comes down to this world and fights Putana, Agasur, Bakasur, etc. You like some drama, some suspense. Shamantak Mani pastime. He orchestrates different pastimes only so that our mind, our ears get attracted to any one of those pastimes and we go back to him. Rather than getting attracted to the so-called Bollywood and Hollywood and Netflix of this world, Krishna says, don't get attracted to that. Get attracted to my pastimes. I am doing the same thing in a more purified fashion. Get attracted to my pastimes. So he is trying to do everything possible so that we can go back to him. We can get attracted back to his pastimes. We see in this world, there is hardly anyone who would deny this fact that small babies are the most attractive, especially when babies are they're very small with no teeth, the broken language, when they're crawling their way on the ground, they're most attractive. How much ever hard-hearted we are, seeing a small baby, our heart just gets attracted. And Krishna knows this. And for that, he decides to come down in the form of a small baby. You like a small baby? You like a small baby lying? You like a small baby eating from the ground? I will do that for you. But get attracted to me. Don't get attracted to anyone of this world. Get attracted to me. To attract our heart, he is ready to steal, he is ready to lie, he is ready to break pots, he is ready to eat dirt from the ground, he is ready to be bound. भगवान सब कुछ करने के लिए तैयार है. He is ready to do anything and everything so that we get attracted back to him and not get attracted to the so-called Netflix of this world. We don't get anything by watching the Netflix and Hollywood and Bollywood. The junk that is already there, by watching all these things, the junk just keeps accumulating. There is already a mountain of trash that is there inside. And by watching all this, the trash just keeps increasing. But the Supreme Lord says that if you get attracted to my pastimes, it's only a matter of time that the whole mountain of trash that has accumulated will be dissipated. So who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Hemavadivya. He is coming as gold personified. Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemavadivya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya. And what is he coming down to give? What is he coming down to share? What is he coming down to distribute? Prema, love of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to freely distribute love of Godhead to anyone and everyone, irrespective of age, irrespective of caste, irrespective of nationality. Someone can be a male, someone can be a female, someone can be a 5-year-old, someone can be an 8-year-old, someone can be an Indian, someone can be an American, someone can be a Britisher, whichever part of the world we are from. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is such, it is all encompassing. Mahaprabhu is ready to embrace all of us. It's in fact so glorious that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already extended his arm for all of us. But we have extended one arm to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but the remaining second arm is for our family life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that you extend both your arms for me. I have extended my arms for you. You also extend both your arms for me. But our one arm is for Gauranga Mahaprabhu, another arm is for our family life. One feet in spiritual world, 1 feet in the material world. But hopefully, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, that day will also arise in our life where we can give everything that we have in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to distribute prema. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. To that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is not different from that of a moon, I offer my very humble obeisances. So these verses that we find in the scriptures, they are an instant burst of nectar. If we can by heart these verses, then wherever we are, we may be walking, we may be talking, we may be cooking, we may be driving a car, we may be writing an email, wherever we are, whatever we are doing, if we can by heart verses and if we know what the meaning is, then naturally it's a spontaneous burst of nectar. We see our 6 Goswamis, primarily Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami had this habit of chanting the different verses of Bhagavatam. Each verse of the Bhagavatam, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would chant in 6 melodies. How many melodies can we chant in? 1 or 2 or max 3 melodies. But Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would chant every verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam in 6 melodies and just cry and weep. So this is something that we can do if throughout the day, if we can spare 5 minutes, not more. If we can spare 5 to 7 minutes, then we can by heart verses, whether from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the devotee community has made it so easy for all of us. We see that His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu has come up with the small booklets, Gita Ratnamala, Chaitanya Ratnamala, Bhagavat Ratnamala. It's just filled with verses. And that too, the verses are arranged so beautifully that if we want verses in connection with the holy name, we have verses in connection with the holy name, verses connected to Krishna, verses connected to Radharani, verses connected to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everything so beautifully arranged. It's only a matter of time that we pick up those books and spend at least 5 or 7 minutes time. It's a guarantee that we will derive spiritual unlimited joy when we start by hearting verses. So that is something that that we can do in our off time. So we find we are describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is going to advent in this world in about months' time. And in the spiritual world, we see there are two camps. We have the camp of Chandravali and we have the camp of Srimati Radharani, the two camps of Madhuri Ras. And both these camps are sold out at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. But there is a difference in love that Chandravali has for Krishna in comparison to the love that Srimati Radharani possesses for Sri Krishna. So for the next 10 or 15 minutes, we will try to see Gaur Lila through the lens, through the eyes of Krishna Lila. We will just do a quick rewind. We will go 5,000 years back in the past. We will go back to the pastimes of Sri Krishna. And from the pastimes of Sri Krishna, we will again come back to the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we find, we were mentioning that in the spiritual world, we have these two camps, the camp of Chandravali and the camp of Radharani. But their love is a little different for Sri Krishna. Both are pure devotees, no doubt, but their love is a little different. The love of Chandravali is called as Grita Sneha. Grita means ghee. You see, during cooking, we use ghee. So Chandravali's love for Sri Krishna is called as Grita Sneha. Sneha means love or affection, and Grita means ghee. So Chandravali's love for Krishna is Grita Sneha, while Radharani's love for Krishna is called as Madhu Sneha. What does Madhu mean? Madhu means honey, and Sneha means affection. So Radharani's love for Krishna is compared to that of honey, while Chandravali's love for Sri Krishna is compared to that of ghee. Now, why is it so? Why is Chandravali's love for Krishna compared to that of ghee? Because primarily we find ghee has a property. When we heat ghee, what happens? The ghee melts. Naturally, if we keep ghee in the gas, we heat it little, it starts melting. Which means when Krishna heats up, when Krishna becomes authoritative, Chandravali melts. When Krishna heats up, when Krishna increases his temperature, when he gets authoritative, Chandravali melts. While on the flip side, honey has a property, it's generally seen when honey, we heat up little, not too much. When we even heat up little, honey starts solidifying. It starts becoming hard, which means when Krishna goes authoritative, which means when Krishna heats up the temperature, Radharani doesn't melt, but Radharani goes more authoritative. When we see in the case of Chandravali, Chandravali melts when Krishna goes authoritative. But in the case of Srimati Radharani, she goes more authoritative than Sri Krishna. So Radharani doesn't melt, but she decides to control Sri Krishna. So we find these are two different kinds of love that Chandravali and Srimati Radharani possess. At the same time, ghee is always had with something else. Ghee cannot be had just by itself. We always have ghee with something else, which means Chandravali needs the help of other gopis to assist her in order to please Krishna. While honey, well, honey has the property that it can be had just like that. We don't require anything else with honey. We can just take a drop of honey and have it, and that can give happiness to the heart, which means Radharani has the power single-handedly to satisfy Krishna, to please Krishna. While Chandravali on the other side, she requires help, she requires assistance of the other Braja gopis, while Radhika can please Krishna all by herself. So we see somehow or the other, Radharani's love for Sri Krishna supersedes the love of Chandravali. And that is why we find all our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Valadev Vidyabhushan, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, Shyamananda Pandit, all the way up to Sri Krishna. All the acharyas in our sampradaya, they all come from the camp of Srimati Radharani. Why? Because all our acharyas are clear. Radharani's love supersedes, head and shoulders above the love of Srimati Chandravali. But having said this, Chandravali is also equally great. She is also a very great pure devotee. But in comparison to Radharani's love is much more than Chandravali. That's why we find in our Gaudiya tradition also, we chant Radhe Radhe and not Chandre Chandre or anything, because we are all followers of Srimati Radharani. So once our Shama Sundar Shri Krishna was getting ready to meet Srimati Radharani. This is a very sweet pastime. Shri Krishna was getting ready to meet Srimati Radharani, and Radharani was all decked up. Her kunja, her sitting place was nicely decked up with different flowers, different garlands, and all the Braja Gopis had made beautiful decoration because Krishna was coming to meet Srimati Radharani. And Krishna was also ready. And Krishna left from his home to meet Srimati Radharani. But what to do? Midway, the gopis, the friends of Chandravali, they intercepted Krishna's path. And they said that, oh Krishna, Chandravali is also waiting for you. Chandravali is also your pure devotee. She's also waiting for you. Why don't you quickly go and meet Chandravali, and then you can go and meet Srimati Radharani? When Krishna heard this, Krishna said, oh yes, I am Bhakta Vatsal. Chandravali is also my devotee. I have to fulfill Chandravali's desire also. We see Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Ye yathamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna says, the way you approach me, that's the way I'm going to reciprocate. And now Chandravali and Radhika, both are pure devotees. And Chandravali here is calling Shri Krishna. Krishna thinks to himself, I am Bhakta Vatsal. My Bhakta is calling me. I have to go to fulfill my desire of my Bhakta. So Krishna takes a detour. Rather than going to Srimati Radharani, who is already waiting, Krishna takes a detour and now goes to the camp of Chandravali. And now Krishna is a very unique kind of God whom we worship. He lies, he steals, he is expert in cheating, and he is also expert in coming late. Krishna is always late. Wherever he goes, Krishna is always late. It's very interesting to see that Krishna is always late, but Radharani is always on time. And that is why in this world also we see there are two kinds of people, those who are late and those who are on time. Because in the spiritual world, we have this category. Krishna is always late. If you give Krishna a time, he will always be late. But Radharani is before time. So Radharani follows time, but Krishna never follows time. So the next time we are on time or when we are late, we can remember this, that, oh, Krishna is also late and Radharani is on time. So Krishna goes to the camp of Chandravali and he ends up spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, and Krishna loses track of time. He completely forgets time. And we see in this world also, the so-called celebrities who are there. When there is a big event, the so-called celebrities never come on time. They always come late. Where is this tendency coming from? This tendency is coming from the supreme celebrity, that is Krishna. Krishna is also late. Wherever he goes, Krishna is always late. This world we find is simply a reflection of the spiritual world. Whatever we see in this world, it's simply a reflection. It's a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj was once in Chapati. For those devotees who have been to Chapati will know that just when we enter the temple, to the right side, there is the Govinda's restaurant, which is very prominent in Indian temples. So this was the early days when Govinda's restaurant was just coming up. And the brahmacharis who were there inside, who were cooking in the Govindas, they invited Srila Radhanath Maharaj so that Radhanath Maharaj can do the inauguration of the Govinda's restaurant. And in the menu, they kept the menu as pizza. And their idea of pizza was to take a loaf of bread, one slice of bread, and in that bread to put some vegetables on top, to put some mozzarella cheese, and that's it. That was their conception of a pizza. So they made their so-called pizza and they gave it to Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj. And Radhanath Maharaj looked at that pizza and Maharaj had that pizza. The next time when Maharaj came, they again gave the same menu. So Maharaj again did not say anything. Maharaj again had it. The third time when Maharaj came, they again gave the same menu. And this time when Maharaj saw this, Maharaj said that probably you can contact Kaustuba Prabhu. Kaustuba Prabhu is from the Bhakti Center here in New York. Maybe you can contact Kaustuba Prabhu. He's expert in making pizzas. So why don't you all contact him and learn from him how to make pizzas? So when they heard this, they said, Maharaj, we are expert in making pizzas. You have had our pizza 3 times and you know how good we are in making pizzas. So Maharaj did not say anything. Maharaj had that slice also. But they decided to follow Maharaj's instruction. And they invited Kaustuba Prabhu from the Bhakti Center to Chowpatty. And Kaustuba Prabhu stayed for some time and he taught the traditional way of making a pizza. And the next time when Radhanath Maharaj came, they made that pizza that Kaustuba Prabhu taught, the actual kind of pizza. And when Maharaj had it, Maharaj very jokingly remarked, he said, now you have entered the spiritual world. All this time that you were feeding me, that was just a perverted reflection of a pizza. This is the real thing. This is the real pizza. So we find whatever in this world, whatever things that we see around, it's simply a reflection of the actual reality of the spiritual world. So the so-called celebrities who come late, where are they getting the tendency to come late? It is coming from Krishna, who is the supreme celebrity. Krishna is always late. And now, because Krishna was late, Radharani became furious. As we mentioned earlier, Radharani has the power to go more authoritative. And she became furious, so furious that she started removing all the decorations. Because all these decorations was for Sham, but if Sham is not going to come, what's the use of all the decorations? So she started removing all the decorations. And she called Lalita and Vishakha. And she said, oh Lalite, oh Vishakhe, whatever black I see, wherever I see black, it reminds me only of Krishna. That is the love of Srimati Radharani. When she sees black, she's only reminded of Shri Krishna. We see black day in and day out. In the morning time when we are combing our hair, if we have hair, when we are combing our hair in the morning, the so-called black hair that we have, how many times do we remember Krishna by seeing the black hair? Hardly there would be anyone. At least I admit the fact that I don't remember Krishna seeing the black hair. But Srimati Radharani, when she sees black, she remembers Krishna. She calls Lalita and Vishakha and says, oh Lalita and Vishakha, anything black reminds me of Krishna. Your black hair also is reminding me of Krishna. Please go and shave off your black hair. Anything black reminds me of Krishna, go and shave your hair. And Lalita and Vishakha are so sold out to Srimati Radharani that they go and they shave off their head. They do complete mundan. So sold out to Radharani. And they come to Radharani and say, oh Radhe, there is no black hair now. But Radharani looks and she says, wait a minute. There is the black eyebrows. The eyebrows are also reminding me of Sham. Go and shave that eyebrow also. So Lalita and Vishakha, they again go. They again shave off their eyebrows. And they again come. And Radharani looks and she says, eyelash. The eyelash is also black in color. And just when Lalita and Vishakha was about to go, they were about to go, Krishna's Paramatma, he understood that Lalita and Vishakha, who are also his devotees, are under some serious danger. They are under some serious chastisement. So Krishna leaves the camp of Chandravali and runs his way to the camp of Radharani. And Krishna is running and running, and finally he comes. And Krishna reaches. And Lalita and Vishakha look at Krishna and they say, oh Krishna, seems like you're very much on time, isn't it? Sarcasm. Transcendental sarcasm. So we see sarcasm is not just in this world, there is some sarcasm in that world also. And Krishna says, oh yeah, I'm always on time. Oh Lalita and Vishakha, I'm very much on time. Lalita says, yeah, we know how much on time you are. What was the time that you committed to Radharani and what is the time that you have come right now? And when this discussion was going on between Lalita and Vishakha and Krishna, Radharani from inside overheard that, oh, Krishna is here. And from inside, Radharani became so furious. She said that, oh, Lalita and Vishakha, make sure that Krishna doesn't enter. Make sure that Shama Sundar doesn't enter my kunj. And if Shama Sundar enters, I will burn the whole of Braj Mandal with my vision. Please make sure Krishna doesn't enter here. Krishna has made me so furious today. I don't want to see Krishna. I don't want to see Shama Sundar. And when Lalita and Vishaka hear this instruction from Srimati Radharani, they immediately take sticks. And as Dwarpal, as doorkeepers, they stand outside the kunja of Srimati Radharani and they say, Krishna, you just heard what Radharani said. There's no way you're going to go inside to meet Srimati Radharani. And Krishna says that, oh, please forgive me. I know I came late, but I was with Madhumangal. I was playing with Madhumangal. And when Lalita Sakhi hears this, she says, yeah, we know which Madhumangal you were with. Our crow was passing. Our crow was flying in the air and our crow spotted you, that you were there with Chandravali's camp of gopis. And not just the crow, our peacock, our cuckoo, our sparrow, all of us unanimously agree to this fact that you were not with Madhumangal, you were not with any of your friends, but you were there with Chandravali. And that's the reason you have come late. You prioritize Chandravali over Radharani. Krishna, you have to do some prayaschitta. You have to do some atonement. And Krishna is ready. He says, what is the atonement? What is the prayaschitta that I have to do? Lalita Sakhi is very strong. Lalita Sakhi looks at Krishna and says, oh Krishna, first thing, give up your three bent form, Tribhang Lalit Sham Sundar. You're always standing crooked. You stand crooked, you speak crooked, you look crooked. Everything is crooked. First of all, stand straight. Give up your three bent form. So Krishna stands straight. And then Lalita Sakhi, she says that give up your flute and your peacock feather. This flute and peacock feather, they're always accompanying you. Give up your flute and give up your peacock feather. Oh Krishna, give up your identity completely. And Krishna, who was Tribhang Lalit Shamasundar, now gives up his Tribhang form. He gives up his peacock. He gives up his flute. And then now Lalita Sakhi says, karma has to come back. Because of you, we had to shave our hair. Karma has to come back. Oh Krishna, please go and shave your hair. But you will not just go and shave your hair. You will go and shave your hair and keep a shika also. Karma has to come back. Krishna, you speak about karma in the Bhagavad Gita. Now karma has to come back to you. Because of you, we had to shave our hair. Please go and shave off your hair. So Krishna goes and shaves his hair off and keeps a shika. And Krishna says, now can I go and meet Radharani? Krishna is begging to meet Srimati Radharani. Lalita Sakhi says, no. Krishna, your prayaschitta is still not done. You have to also give up your Pitambar Vesh. That Pitambar Vesh that you're always wearing. You have to also give up this attire. Krishna, you have to completely change your identity. And Lalita Sakhi presents the attire of a mendicant, of a bhikshuk. So Krishna wears that. And Krishna says, now can I meet Radharani? Lalita Sakhi says, no. Just like we are standing as Dwarpal holding sticks. Oh Krishna, here is your stick. Lalita Sakhi gives her stick and says, now you hold the stick and stand here, right outside the Kunja Srimati Radharani. And Krishna, who is Sham Sundar, has now lost his Tribhang Lalit form, has now lost his peacock feather, has now lost his flute, has now lost his Pitambar Vesh, has now lost his hair. Everything that is Krishna, he has completely lost. And Krishna says, now can I go? Lalita Sakhi says, no. Krishna, your prayaschitta is still not done. Lalita Sakhi is so powerful that she's so powerful that she can even chastise Krishna. So Krishna says, please let me know what more should I do to meet Srimati Radharani? How is it that I can absolve myself of this offense of coming late to meet Srimati Radharani? And Lalita Sakhi now throws the thunderbolt. She says, oh Krishna, you have to even give up your bluish black complexion. Krishna says, how can I do that? The Pitambar Vesh, the peacock feather, the flute, all these things I can give up. How can I give up my complexion? That is something that is inherent. How can I give up my complexion? Lalita Sakhi says, we will tell you a secret mantra by which you can give up your complexion also. Krishna says, Acha, okay, what is that mantra? Lalita Sakhi says, oh Krishna, please sit down here outside the Kunj of Srimati Radharani and chant the names of Radharani. Chant the names of Srimati Radharani for 3 days and 3 nights. And Krishna, he takes this instruction so much to heart. Krishna, very innocently, like a good boy, Krishna sits outside and starts chanting the name of Radharani. And at the end of 3 days and 3 nights, there are tears that are just flowing from the eyes of Sri Krishna. And dear devotees, the bluish black complexion was also gone. After chanting the names of Srimati Radharani, who's molten golden color, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Srimati Radharani is Tapta Kanchana, she's molten golden color. Sri Krishna, who was so much absorbed in the thoughts of Radharani, so absorbed in her Naam, that Krishna lost his complexion. And very soon, Shama Sundar ended up becoming Gaura Sundar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. This is the first demonstration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's avatar in Krishna's pastimes. Krishna lost completely his complexion. He lost his pitambar. He lost his Tribang Lalit form. He lost his peacock. He lost his flute. He lost his hair. He lost all his identity. And like a mendicant, was now holding a stick. Krishna now, who was in the complexion of gold, is crying, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. He looked at Lalita and said, now can I meet Srimati Radharani? Lalita Sakhi said, no. This was part 1. We see how Lalita Sakhi is controlling Krishna. Lalita Sakhi says, this was part 1. Part 2 of your Prayaschitta is in this form. Oh, Gaura Sundar, in this form, you have to now go and preach the glories of Radharani. Go and preach the glories of Radharani as to how glorious and how magnanimous Srimati Radharani is. Krishna says, okay. Krishna Chandra, who had now become Gaura Chandra, with this mood of Prayaschitta, dear devotees, comes down to this world, chanting the glories of Srimati Radharani for 48 years, crying and weeping, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. We see in Gambhira, in the house of Kashi Mishra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was completely in the mood of Radharani and he exploded. The golden volcano completely exploded. And he was simply chanting the name of Radharani and preaching the glories of Srimati Radharani for 48 years. The next time, dear devotees, we see our deity Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our home deities or our temple deities. Let us go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and say, oh Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is one secret I know. Apart from the different reasons that you have taken for your advent, one of the reasons that you have incarnated in this world is for Prayaschitta. My dear Lord, I know it's a very secret thing, but I know you came late to meet Radharani and Lalita Sakhi gave you this supreme transcendental punishment as Prayaschitta, and you came down to this world 48 years chanting the glories of Srimati Radharani to taste the fruit of Radha Prem, to taste the fruit of Radha Bhav. And for 48 years, Mahaprabhu, in the mood of repentance and Prayaschitta, was tasting the fruit of Radha Bhav. And now what happens? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come down to taste Radha Bhav, but what if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgets to taste? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to taste, but what if he forgets to taste it? Oh, Nityananda Prabhu is there. Nityananda Prabhu is not only reminding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to taste the fruit of Radha Bhav, but at the same time, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so absorbed in tasting the fruit of Radha Prem, Nityananda Prabhu does the preaching work. Because Nityananda Prabhu knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not have much time. He is tasting the fruit. So Nitai is Guru Tattva. He thinks to himself, let Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste the fruit, but I, as Guru Tattva, I will go door to door. I will go house to house and I will preach these glories of Radha Prem, Radha Bhav, through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Gambhira is tasting the fruit. He is tasting love of Godhead. And Nityananda Prabhu is preaching love of Godhead. And we find for this reason, Nityananda Prabhu, he appears in a place called as Eka Chakra. We would have all heard this place, Eka Chakra. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in Nadia. Similarly, Nityananda Prabhu appears in Eka Chakra. Why does Nityananda Prabhu appear in Eka Chakra? There are so many places in Mayapur. Why only Eka Chakra? What is so special about Eka Chakra that Nityananda Prabhu appeared there? And our Acharyas give a very beautiful understanding. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says that it is said, Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Hai Andakar, Jaha Krishna Taha Nai Mayera Adhikar. Wherever Krishna is present, there cannot be darkness. Krishna is like the sun and Maya Devi is like darkness. Wherever there is sun, there cannot be darkness. Which also means wherever there is Krishna, there cannot be Maya Devi. This goes back and forth, vice versa. And that same Krishna, who's like the sun, he is not different from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Krishna Eka Atma Duhi Deha Dari. We know Radha and Krishna are factually one personality, but that one personality has now expanded into two personalities in Dwapar. But that two personalities have again fused to become one personality in Kali Yuga. So Radha Krishna Eka Atma Duhi Deha Dari. So if Krishna is like the sun, Krishna Chaitanya, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is also like the sun. There is no difference. And now we find the sun god, Surya Dev. He has a property. The Surya Dev, or the sun god, he drives on a chariot. As we see, the kings or the demigods, they don't drive a Tesla. They don't drive a BMW or a Mercedes. They don't drive any of these. They drive in the traditional way, in horses and chariots. So Surya Dev also has a chariot. And now this chariot is such, it's a very interesting chariot. This chariot that Surya Dev drives, we see whenever a chariot is there, and such a big personality as Surya Dev, he doesn't drive the chariot. He has a charioteer. Just like people in this world, if they're big celebrities, nowadays almost everyone, they do not drive the car, but they have a driver. They have a chauffeur who will drive the car for them. Similarly, Surya Dev is such a big position. So he doesn't drive the chariot, but he has a charioteer. And now naturally we find when the chariot is coming to us, the first person whom we see is the charioteer. And then we see the person who is sitting behind. In the Bhagavad Gita also we find Krishna is Partha Sarthi. Krishna is driving the chariot for Arjuna. And naturally when we see, the first person whom we see is Krishna. Then we see Arjuna. So when the chariot is coming towards us, we first see the charioteer, then we see the person sitting behind. Similarly, dear devotees, Suryadev's chariot, the personality who drives the chariot, the charioteer of Suryadev, is a personality by the name Aruna. And Aruna is orangish or reddish in complexion. It is for this reason we find when the sun is about to rise early in the morning, the whole sky, the whole horizon is orangish or reddish in complexion. Why? Because just before Suryadev comes, it is his charioteer who comes. As we mentioned, when the person is driving the chariot, we first see the charioteer, then we see the person sitting behind. So before Suryadev appears in this world, it is his charioteer Aruna who appears. And because Aruna, the charioteer, is orangish or reddish in complexion, that is why we find the whole sky is orangish or reddish in complexion. So now we were making this point that Suryadev drives a chariot. And who is Suryadev in our context? It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like the sun, is driving the chariot. And what is this chariot, dear devotees? This chariot is the Sankirtan movement. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present, sitting on this chariot, and that chariot is the Sankirtan movement. But the sun god also has this chariot where to both sides there are many wheels that are there. Both sides of the chariot has many wheels, which means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being assisted with many of his associates like Haridas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit, Kashishwar Pandit, Paramananda Puri, Udharananda Thakur, and so many others. So many other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have appeared before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are like the different small wheels who are assisting the chariot like Sankirtan movement. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sitting like the sun god. But dear devotees, this chariot of Surya Dev has one interesting property. On both sides, it has many small wheels, but in the front, the ahead, there is one big wheel. And this one big wheel actually drives the whole chariot ahead. There are different small wheels, no doubt, but this one big wheel that is there ahead is instrumental in taking the whole chariot ahead. And dear devotees, in our context, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the sun god. The Sankirtan movement is the chariot. There's different small wheels to both the sides and the different associates. And Nityananda Prabhu is the driving force. Nityananda Prabhu is like that one big wheel who is driving the Sankirtan movement. Because as we mentioned, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is tasting the fruit. He doesn't have much time. So Nityananda Prabhu is like that big wheel who is driving, who is empowering, who is carry forwarding. He's taking the Sankirtan movement ahead. And that one big wheel is called as Eka Chakra. Eka means one and Chakra means a wheel. Because Nityananda Prabhu is the driving force of the Sankirtan movement, he is like that one big wheel of Surya Dev who is taking the Sankirtan movement ahead. And we find it is for this reason Nityananda Prabhu appears in the land of Eka Chakra to demonstrate this point that he is the driving force of the Sankirtan movement. He is the personality who has established the marketplace of the holy name, but by loudly propagating the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Gambhira is tasting Radha Bhav, is tasting Radha Prem, and as Prayaschita for the late arrival that he did at Srimati Radharani's camp, he is doing some Prayaschita. He is tasting Radha Bhav, Radha Prem there. And Nityananda Prabhu, he is spreading love of Godhead. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is tasting love of Godhead. Nityananda Prabhu is spreading love of Godhead. Now we have Gadadhar Pandit. Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Srimati Radharani. Now we may have a question. Wait a minute. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Radharani, and Gadadhar Pandit is also Radharani. Why is two Radharanis in one pastime? Why is Radharani coming two times? There seems some redundancy. Why is Srimati Radharani coming twice? And the reason Radharani comes twice is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing Radha Bhav for the very first time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has no prior experience. He doesn't know how he is going to feel when he is going to taste Radha Bhav. We see just like an actor, if it's a stage play, and if an actor is acting for the first time, we see sometimes, if it's an ISKCON drama or something, we see many times, if someone is acting for the first time, many times the director will stand behind the curtain, and from behind he will keep whispering, don't show your back to the audience, speak into the mic, do this, do that, speak loudly, show some actions. So the director from behind keeps giving instructions, and this new actor hears the instructions and keeps acting. Why? Because he has no prior experience. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has no prior experience. He has not tasted Radha Bhav before. So Radharani understands, Acha, Krishna, you have not tasted. I will, like the director, I will come down, and from behind I will whisper. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, do this, do that, go here, go there, hear this, don't hear that. I am Radharani. I know what Radha Bhav is. I will give you instructions and you will just keep following instructions. So that is why we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is already in the mood of Radhika, gets another Radharani, that is in the form of Gadadhar Pandit, so that Gadadhar can help Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste Radha Bhav in a much better fashion. So to reiterate, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to taste love of Godhead. Nityananda Prabhu is spreading love of Godhead. Gadadhar Pandit is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste love of Godhead in a better way. Advaita Acharya is invoking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down to this world. We find just like one understanding is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came down to this world because of what Lalita Sakhi said. But at the same time, another understanding, as we all know, is Advaita Acharya was equally instrumental in getting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down to this world. Advaita Acharya had read the Gautamiya Tantra. And in the Gautamiya Tantra, this point is made. Tulsi jala matrena jalasya chulukena va vikriditam swa atmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktavatsalaha. Krishna in the Gautamiya Tantra makes a promise. What is the promise? Tulsi jala matrena jalasya chulukena va. If someone offers little tulsi leaves and Ganga waters to a shaligram, Vikriditam swa atmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktavatsalaha. Krishna gives a guarantee. Krishna gives a promise. If anyone offers little tulsi leaves and Ganga water to a shaligram, Krishna sells himself to that devotee. This is Krishna's promise in the Gautamiya Tantra. And Advaita Acharya had apparently read this. So he was trying to butter the Supreme Lord. He said, my dear Lord, you have only said that you sell yourself. I am offering Ganga water and tulsi leaves. Please come down. I am begging you. I am requesting you. You have promised that you will sell yourself. I am just doing the same thing, my dear Lord. Please come down. So Advaita Acharya is instrumental in getting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is tasting love of Godhead. Nityananda Prabhu is spreading love of Godhead by going door to door, house to house, village to village. Gadadhar Pandit is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste Radha Bhav in a much better fashion. He is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relish Radha Prem in a better mood. Fourth, Advaita Acharya is calling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down to this world. And finally, Srivas. Srivas is the proof that the whole process outlined by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bona fide. He acts as testimony that the whole process is working perfectly fine. Because we see there is one person who is tasting, one person who is preaching, one person who is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste, another person who is invoking them down. But Kali Yuga Jivas are such that till the time we don't have any proof, we will not accept anything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understands. Even after giving so much, Mahaprabhu understands that we need some proof. Only then our heart is convinced. So Srivas appears in this world. And Srivas is in the mood of Bhakta, to show to the world that this whole process works completely fine. It's bona fide. It is time tested. And anyone who follows will get that fruit that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came down to give, to be the servant of Radha and Krishna. So in this way, we find that the Supreme Lord expands in Kali Yuga in 5 features in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the form of Nityananda Prabhu, in the form of Gadadhar Pandit, in the form of Advaita Acharya, and finally in the form of Srivas. And all of them combined give us the process of chanting of the holy names. They gave us the process of the Sankirtan movement. This chanting of the holy names is such, it is so powerful. Srimad Bhagavatam Shukadev Goswami describes, Krite tadhyayate Vishnum Tretayam yachator makhe Dvapare paricharyayam kalau tad hari kirtana. Krite tadhyayate Vishnum. Whatever was achieved in Satya Yuga by meditation, Tretayam yachator makhe, whatever was achieved in Treta Yuga by doing fire sacrifice, yogic sacrifice, Dvapare paricharyayam, whatever was achieved in Dwapar Yuga by performing deity worship, the same and much more can be achieved in this dark age of Kali simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We should have this complete faith, complete conviction that this Hare Krishna Mahamantra that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming down to give will give us everything that was given in Satya, everything that was given in Treta, everything that was given in Dwapar, and much more. We are much fortunate than Satya, Treta, and Dwapar because we are getting something that all 3 ages did not get. What is that extra thing that we are getting, which the other three ages did not get? Kaviraj Goswami very beautifully says, Kshiradadatam nijagupta vittam swapema namamrtamatyudara apamaram yo vidadata gaura Krishno janebhyastamaham prapadye. Kshiradadatam nijagupta vittam swaprema namamrta atyudara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to the chanting of the holy names, is giving something that was never given in the past. What is that thing? To be the servant of Srimati Radharani. This was never given in the past. So many came. Ramanujacharya came. Nimbarkacharya came. Vishnu Swami came. Ramchandra came. Bharat came. Shatrughna came. Narsinghadev came. Vaman came. Parshuram came. Ram came. Even Krishna came. No one could give what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, to be the servant of Srimati Radharani. This was never given in the past. This rare jewel, dear devotees, is given once in a day of Brahma, which means once in about 4 billion years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes down to give the mood of becoming Radharani's maid servant through the chanting of the holy names. This is not given very often. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu whom we saw 500 years back, who has appeared, will now again appear after about 4 billion earthly years. So we are so fortunate. When we say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just appeared 500 years back, it's a very rare phenomenon, because the next appearance would be right after Krishna's appearance. And we see Krishna, he appears once in a day of Brahma. So once in about 4 billion earthly years. That is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is again going to appear. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so kind and so fortunate. He has made, in fact, all of us fortunate by giving this chanting of the holy names, by which the fruit behind chanting of the holy names is to become the servant of Srimati Radharani. And by doing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is fulfilling the instruction that Lalita Sakhi gave of tasting the mood of Radharani and preaching the glories of Srimati Radharani and collecting more and more servants of Srimati Radharani in this world by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So in this way, we find we should have complete conviction. Whatever was achieved in the previous ages can be achieved in this age simply by chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There is no devotional activity that supersedes the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. All the devotional activities are always subordinate to Nam. Jiva Goswami makes this point. All the devotional activities are important, no doubt. But if they are not coupled with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then other activities do not yield much benefit. But if they are coupled with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then everything makes sense. It's like we may have different zeros, but if there is no one preceding that zero, it doesn't have much value. Similarly, we may do different devotional activities, but if we are not picking the beads and not chanting, and if we are not doing Harinam Sankirtan, we are actually not following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Srivas Angan was chanting day in and day out. So as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Harinam is something that we have to be attracted to. Harinam is something that we have to invest all our time and all our energy. So in this way, we find that in months' time, we are going to celebrate the appearance of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And on the day of Gaura Purnima, we can remember this and tell Chaitanya Mahaprabhu secretly that, my dear Lord, I know that apart from the various reasons, Advaita Acharya called you down, but I also know that one of the secret reasons is you came late to the camp of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi, who is so bold, who has the nature of Pragalbha, as sweet chastisement. She sent you down in this very beautiful attire, and you were spreading the glories of Radharani for 48 years, crying and weeping in Gambhira. In this way, we find the Supreme Lord comes in 5 features as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is not different from Radha and Krishna, to taste the fruit of Radha Prem, as Nityananda Prabhu, in order to preach the fruit of love of Godhead, that is love of Godhead. And then we have Gadadhar Pandit, who is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste love of Godhead in a better fashion, who is helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taste Radha Bhava, Radha Prem in a better fashion. We have Advaita Acharya who is calling all of them down, and Srivas is a proof that the whole process works perfectly fine. It's time-tested process. Having said this, I very humbly want to stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Birmingham Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari.